your word is the only thing you have, right? We had this money back guarantee, unconditional money back guarantee. And we were implementing one customer. It was a bowling shirt company. They made customized bowling shirts. And we're just about to launch them. We're getting ready to launch. And the guy calls me up and he said, listen, our business isn't doing that well, so I want my money back. I don't want to launch. And I remember I called a friend of mine and I was in tears. I was literally wrote a check and I FedExed like a $60,000 check back to this customer. And it was early in our business. And I'm like, this could put us out of business.
Today's guest, we have Rich Lyons. Rich has spent most of his life in sales, building really massive teams. He has landed some huge clients in the e-com space at agency. Clients like GoPro, Patagonia, True Religion, Stance, Kate Spade, Herman Miller, Ashley Furniture, Hot Topic, some serious big brands in the e-com space. And now he spends his time helping other people do the same. These days, he's a coach and advisor for companies that want better sales results and leaders who want to show up with more clarity and honesty, not just bigger targets. Also, just wrote his first book, Life is Sales. The big idea is really simple. You're selling all the time, ideas, decision, and yourself. And the way that you do that should feel real, not fake or pushy. Throughout his coaching, training, and content, Rich is focused on one thing, helping people hit levels of success they didn't think were possible. Rich, welcome to the show.
Jake, thanks. That was a great intro. I appreciate that. And thanks for having me on. I'm excited for our conversation.
Likewise. So you sold your business you were doing 50 million ARR, and you sold your business a couple years back. You want to tell everybody kind of a little bit more about the business, really what you were doing, and what services you were offering and all the things?
Sure. Yeah, I started Lyons Consulting Group, Lyons CG, back in 2003. And ran it for 14 years until 2017. So, I mean, we started off kind of modestly. Dave and I, we were doing staff aug. We were basically doing staff augmentation projects, placing bodies into companies. But then we kind of started getting into e-commerce. E-commerce just started to take off right after that. And we were doing some .NET, C#, kind of some custom website development. And then one of our customers, actually Playboy was a customer of ours and a good friend of mine and client at the time. They kind of stumbled on Demandware and they decided they were going to build a Shop the Bunny site where they were going to sell lingerie and maybe try to compete with Victoria's Secret at that time. And they chose a platform called Demandware, which was one of the first multi-tenant SaaS-based platforms. So he told Demandware basically, hey, we want Lyons to do our implementation. They know us. We're working with them. And Demandware said, no way. They're not trained. They don't know the platform. There's no way they can do this implementation. It's too tight of a time frame. And Scott kind of said, well, then we're not doing it. So Demandware said, well, okay, maybe we will, work with Lyons, right? So that was kind of our first implementation. We got trained on the Demandware platform. And then from there, we really, really grew with them and did a ton of, websites, as you mentioned. We started early with Sanrio. If you remember the Hello Kitty brand, we worked with Warner Digital Distribution early, Lucy, Compact Appliance, and then we just continued to grow with Demandware into some of the bigger brands, like you mentioned, doing Patagonia and, Stance Socks, which was super fun, and GoPro was amazing to work with. I remember being in GoPro's office and I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. If you remember the user-generated content, like it wasn't a thing back then. And I was just watching this content. It was amazing. So we kind of pivoted, we were from that staff aug to doing a lot of other things. And when the market kind of crashed and 08, 09, when the financial markets crashed, we decided, okay, we're only going to focus on e-commerce. We're not doing anything else. And we did add Magento, so we were doing some Magento sites as well. We added Hybris, and we're doing some B2B sites on Hybris, and then just really grew. We did obviously the implementations, the technical implementation, which involved all the integrations and customizations. but we also added creative. So we did full creative, so full design services and digital marketing and digital strategy. So we were a full service digital agency.
Wow. That's really an impressive story of, I mean, landing all those clients is insanely impressive. So it sounds to me like your first in was a really powerful relationship that you had with who was owning Playboy, and that leveraged relationship is really what struck gold for you guys as far as a really great long-term client that had a ton of additional work that then helped you piggyback to land some of these other big clients. Would you say that that's pretty accurate?
Yeah, I think, I mean, Jake, you strike on a great point, which, I try to get across to everyone in sales and obviously in my book, Life is Sales, like sales is about relationships, right? And I never wanted to burn a bridge, if you can imagine, like establish those relationships and really, sales is about service. We get so focused on a quota and selling a product or selling a service, we forget there's a relationship there. We're trying to help someone on the other side of the desk. And if I can't help them, do I know someone else that I can connect them to? So to really be a connector, have that network of people, and then like, hey, I can't help you. I'm not the right person, but I know someone else I'm going to introduce you to who can help you, and just build those relationships. So your point is 100% right. We were doing good work with Scott at Playboy. I had a great relationship with him, and he basically, went to bat for us and said, well, if we're not using Lions, we're not going to do the project. I mean, to have someone back you like that and to have that strong of a relationship is amazing, right? So I think doing the right thing, being fair, like if you think of sales, it's all about that relationship.
Yeah. Why do you think that, he was willing to go to bat with you? Like, I mean, obviously you want to become close with the people that you interact with and become, in relation with, but like, what do you think gave such a pull that he wouldn't even do the project unless it was with you? Like, genuinely, like, what do you think is some of the real reasons for that?
Well, from the beginning, I think we ran a values-based organization. And even at the very beginning, when we started, like we had this money back guarantee. So you can imagine, like a lot of people are like, "Are you crazy?" But I mean, I felt like say you're doing a project and you mess up, aren't you going to make it right anyway? Like to me, a money back guarantee didn't really mean that much, because if I'm doing a project and I mess up or the customer's not happy, I'm going to do everything I can to make it right. And that's the most important thing, that relationship, right? So I think because we had those values, because we truly, like, our number one, value was putting the customer first, right? And I always would say, put yourself in the customer's shoes, understand their pain, really understand it. And let's be fair, like if a customer's not happy, I'm going to say, how can I make you happy? What's fair? Do I need to give your money back? Do we want to split it? We have this money back guarantee. What can I do to make it right? So we are always trying to fix it. And I think if you're focusing on the money first and then the relationship second, it's different than focusing on the relationship and doing the right thing and then trusting that the money will come. And I think that's what we tried to do at Lions. And it's not easy to do. If you can imagine, it's not easy to have that level of trust. Like if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm serving customers, that we will grow and we will be successful. And it did work out.
Yeah. So I guess it sounds like you were working with them prior to then earning that huge job, right? And that's why they were willing to vouch for you, because it wasn't just a relationship. You earned the relationship, you earned their business, but then you really followed up with the client. You showed that you knew what you were doing, and then you used that both trust and experience of really taking care of your customer to then jump into them vouching, no, I want them to take on this project. It
was right? Both. Absolutely. So, I mean, to your point, like you have to deliver great work, so yeah. We were already working with them. We were already in the organization doing work. So they already trusted us. And that trust goes a long way, right? So when a new project comes along, we know their environment. We know them, they know us, they trust us, and they're saying, well, we want to use them, right? To the point where they said, well, if we can't use them, then we're not going to do the project, which is really a very, very bold statement for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess onto that, like as far as landing some of these additional huge clients, how did that original client how were you able to really leverage that original client to then piggyback onto eventually getting some of these huge GoPro, like the True Religion, like some of these huge brands?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting how it started. So, I mean, that was our first experience with Demandware. So you think, you know, you have your customer, but then you have your kind of partnerships, right? And I'm a huge believer in alliances and partnerships and really building those strong partnerships outside of even the customer, right? So we did such a good job that they started using us then in some of their other projects, right? So we started being a subcontractor to Demandware because we, you know, all of a sudden we're trained and we're training other people and we're doing a good job. So they're bringing us in to accounts where they're priming. So some of those early accounts like Warner Brothers, Sanrio, Compact Appliance, they were doing the implementation as the software vendor, and they were subcontracting a lot of the development work to us. Now, as they grew, we grew with them. So think of this alliance as we're growing together, where then we're kind of their first partner. You know, we are being enabled to do implementations, and all of a sudden we started doing implementations on our own. And we literally helped them build out their partner program, right? So how do you enable us? How do you enable other partners? And let's stay close to them and continue to do great work, because they can't afford, as a software vendor, they can't afford to have, you know, bad implementations. They just can't. So there was a point in time where, you know, they were trying to expand, probably I would say too quickly, their partner network, and they had a lot of partners, and all of a sudden there was a lot of failed implementations. So then all of a sudden we're cleaning up implementation. That's good for no one, you know. So they started kicking people out of the program. So I think back to relationships, it's obviously the relationship with the customer, number one, but also the relationship with the partner, right? The software vendor. And it's not just, you know, became part of their team. We became an extension of their team, which made it easy then for us to start doing these other implementations with them, and then to get the other implementations, because why? We had references. We had the most customers. We did the most implementations. And I could say, hey, do you want to talk to, you know, Scott Steven at Playboy? Hey, do you want to talk to Mike Watkey? Hey, do you want to, you know, talk to Patagonia, GoPro? You know, and all of a sudden it's hard to lose deals when you have so many good references and you're doing so much good work. And we were never the lowest priced, you know, Jake. So I mean, I was clear with people, you know, what's your criteria in terms of picking a partner? And if it's price, like if your top three, you know, your top three criteria for picking our price, you know, you're never going to pick us. We're never going to be the cheapest, but we're the best. And that was a very strong value proposition.
Wow.
I mean, based on what you just said, the actual basis of a good relationship is backing up your word. And when you say you're going to like implement something correctly, you actually implement it. So you actually have the skills in order to move forward with those, because I guess a good relationship, I mean, it's still valuable, but you need to back it up.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. I think that's such a good point. Like, you got to walk your talk. I mean, your word is the only thing you have, right? So, I mean, think about this money back guarantee we had, and we modified it a little bit. And I'll tell you a story. Like, we had this money back guarantee, unconditional money back guarantee at the beginning. And we were implementing one customer. It was a bowling shirt company. They made customized bowling shirts. And we're just about to launch them. We're getting ready to launch them. It was actually on the Magento platform. And the guy calls me up and he said, listen, our business isn't doing that well, so I want my money back. I don't want to launch. And that wasn't the intention of our guarantee. You can understand, right? That wasn't really the intention of our guarantee. And I remember I called a friend of mine and I was in tears, because it was like, I was literally wrote a check and I FedExed like a $60,000 check back to this customer, and it was early in our business, and I'm like, this could put us out of business.
Wow.
Like, this is a lot of money. But to your point about your word, like, I knew I had to do it because that was the word that I gave him, and I sent it back, and we were going to a trade show the next week, like literally, and we had our bowling shirts made that said Lions CG, and we were going to be like, this was our big launch on the Magento platform, and we were ready in the booth to do this, and then we didn't launch. And I went to that show, and I got to tell you, I kind of had my tail between my legs because I was like, people are going to see this as a failure, and people are going to be like, oh, you didn't launch, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I went to the show and I told people the story, you know, yeah, I sent the guy his money back, and everyone's like, you did what? Like, you sent him the money back? You sent a check? Are you serious? Like, you sent a check back, and their responses were unbelievable. And people are like, we want to work with you.
I see that as a big investment on your part, and it's like a huge trust factor, and it's a good story to tell your potential clients.
Absolutely. And so, but we did change, you know, just I mean, you can understand the trauma I kind of was going through, you know, as a business owner, and obviously it turned out opposite the way I thought, but we did change it to be a satisfaction guarantee where we were very clear. It's not an unconditional money back guarantee. We kind of changed it and said, if you're not satisfied, we're going to fix it for free. And if you're still not satisfied, we'll give you your money back for that piece. So it wasn't unconditional, like, hey, your business isn't doing well, send me my money back, because that wasn't the intent. The intent was, if you're unhappy with our work, of course, we're going to fix it or give you your money back. So we did change it a little bit, but that early story, it set a tone for our whole company that we're walking our walk. If you're unhappy, we're going to make you happy. And when you think of a culture, like, think of the culture I was trying to build, not just me, but the whole culture, where I was saying, I want every interaction we have with the customer for them to feel better leaving it, even if we lose. So think about this. We go into a pitch and we lose the deal. I still want them to feel great about Lions CG. I still want them to feel like we added to them, even if we didn't work with them, that they feel good about it. And then that continued. If we did work with them, if we mess up, we're going to fix it. If you're unhappy, we're going to fix it. We had to have that kind of positive reference. And I would say we want to be 100% referenceable. Probably impossible, but that's what we drove to. 100% referenceable. Everyone feels good. You ask them about Lions CG, they're going to be like, they're great. We had a great experience with them.
It's powerful. Super powerful. It's really cool. And it's so interesting, like, listening to your story, how it's like you think of, I mean, I personally haven't really spoken to somebody in full detail about how they've landed so many insane clients like yours. But when you really think about it and like hear how simple it is, it's like, do what you say you're going to do, really impress the client, do what you can to really over deliver and keep them super satisfied, and have a great relationship that's so good that they want to refer you business. And when you continuously do that over time, you'll end up with higher caliber clients that think the same way, and then they'll refer you to other high caliber clients. And then once you have a Rolodex of those good clients, they will you're unstoppable, because you now have a lot of great clients that all speak very highly of you, because you hold your word and you say what you do what you say you're going to do, and you treat people really well. It's like,
that's exactly right. No, it's exactly right. And it seems easy, but obviously it's harder than you think. I mean, and you kind of said it, like, you kind of under promise and over deliver. You have to, right? Yeah. I mean, even, and it throughout your whole culture, it impacts everything. Like, even our proposals were the most detailed proposals that anyone was going to get. Like, we listed everything. Here's your implementation, here's your creative, here's every customization listed out, you know, with how much. Here, you know, here's every integration listed out with how much, so they could see exactly what they were.
You're essentially giving away the sauce of, like, hey, you could run with this if you want to, but we're just going to over deliver.
No, 100%. And if you don't want this piece, we'll take it out, but you can see how much things were going to cost, and we tried to be upfront with people. We weren't baiting and switching them. Like a lot of times we would think like, oh, you need an order management system. So we'd add in this order management system, and they'd say, hey, no one else is proposing an order management system. And we'd be like, you have to have it. It's not going to work right unless you add the order management system. They're not adding it in because they don't want to inflate the price. We're just telling you, we're not doing the order management system, but you need an order management system. You need to put it in. So there were things like that. And I think about kind of the flywheel effect. If Jim Collins talks about the flywheel, but I mean, there's this effect that happened where not only did customers want to work with us, but we attracted the best employees.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to come work with these other great employees, but they also wanted to come and work with the best customers. And we went to a trade show. We were at a trade show, and we had a dinner for customers and prospects. And to your point, like, basically GoPro is a customer and Patagonia is there as a prospect. And we sat them down at the same table and introduced them, and GoPro loved Patagonia and Patagonia loved GoPro, right? I didn't have to sell Patagonia at all. GoPro sold Patagonia.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, also talking about being like referenced and having referrals, I think you need to actually do the work and over deliver, so you make it worth it for people to refer you.
Yeah.
If you're just doing okay job, it's why would they refer you to other people? They're not going to feel confident.
Indebted.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. No, you're exactly right. And I think it goes back to kind of that helping them. If you think about how can you help them, like, and we would connect customers together. A customer is saying, oh, we're implementing a new ERP system. We're going to implement Microsoft Dynamics, GP or AX or whatever. And that's not work we did, but we would say, oh, you know what, over here at Vince, they just did that. Let me introduce you to Vince and talk to them about how their implementation went. Now, that has nothing to do with any work I'm going to do. I'm not doing the ERP implementation, but talk to Jules over at Vince. He's a good friend. He can tell you, the pains and what to avoid to help you, right? So help people even when it doesn't mean you're making money, I guess is the other point, right? Can you just be that resource? Like, think about that. Can you be a resource to someone so they're going to call you? And it doesn't mean you're always going to be doing the work, but you're always going to find a way to help them.
So I personally think that like releasing good into the world, whether it's giving money to people that need it, giving advice, information, time, it just comes back to you one way or another. You get it back. That's 100%. How the world.
No, I call it karma, right? I call it karma.
Some people call it that, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you put out good karma and it's going to come back. Now, it might not come back from that person, but I believe if I'm putting it out, it comes back somewhere.
Yeah, as long as you mean good and you don't have like any like weird hidden intentions and just do it just to do it, it comes back to you. And 100%. I had like multiple experiences that prove that.
Yeah, they said that, I'm probably going to butcher this, but they said that it's like when you are always giving, you don't, and with the intention of not receiving in return, the one time when you do need it, 90% of people won't fill the reciprocation loop, but that 10% that you do need it, those people will be there typically. And it really helps to propel you forward tremendously where, it's like, it's just, if you're always putting out that good juju, that good karma, eventually that few times that you need it, that's when you actually can execute and it can become really profound in your life. So, I'm a strong believer of all of this. So Rich, I guess based on what you're doing now, so you're helping other entrepreneurs, other founders to grow, to scale, to, improve their sales team, improve their leadership. How are you taking some of your prior experience and some of the things that are, discussed in your book, and how are you helping some of these founders to really grow their businesses Like what does that look like working with you and helping these founders to grow?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I
Can I
think,
ask a quick question before that?
yeah, sure.
Like, so you worked on like a lot of technical projects. Like, how did you transition from that to sales?
I mean, undergraduate, I was a double E computer science, so I was very technical personally, right? So I came out and I worked in consulting for a few years. And then I went back to graduate school. So I went back to Kellogg at Northwestern University and I got my MBA in marketing and finance. So I came out and I started running sales, so I was a director of sales and marketing and I was running sales, but I still hadn't what I would say carried a bag. So the next job I took, I guess, stepped back and basically said, I need to learn to sell. So I literally took a job carrying a bag, selling technology for a firm called Whitman Hart and just sell. And I got to tell you, it was really hard. I mean, it was the first time that I was really faced with failure. I mean, because in sales, you're faced with failure all the time. And I remember, like, I went into Whitman Hort, and the CEO was saying, three, if you had 3 meetings in a week, that was a good week, right? And I knew I needed more support, so I joined a sales group, and I joined the sales group to get support. And those guys were saying, listen, you need more than 3 meetings a week. And I'm like, nah, the CEO said 3 meetings, that's it. Like, you need more. And a friend of mine said, who's in the group, he's like, listen, people have, breakfast and they have lunch, every day. So you could have 10 meetings a week. Just meet someone for coffee, meet someone for lunch. Like, you need to have more meetings. So literally I almost got put on a PIP, a performance improvement plan. Like, I almost got put on a plan before I woke up and said, I need more meetings. And then I became kind of maniacal about metrics and really tracking metrics and how many dials I'm making, how many meetings I'm having, what I'm adding to the pipeline, my close rates, and all of that, because you need activity. Sales is about activity. You can't get around it. So that helped me transition from kind of more my technical background to sales. And so by the time I started Lyons Consulting Group, I wasn't doing any technical work. I was all about just relationships, so sales, partnerships, and then culture. So that was my job. I mean, but I was never doing any programming.
Okay, makes sense.
And so I guess before we get back to my question, your journey from the technical, still you ended up starting the agency and landing the project. And it doesn't, I mean, from what we spoke about before, it doesn't sound necessarily like you were the one doing all the implementation. You had the team, you primarily just wore the hat of selling. Is that about right? I mean, it sounded like your background came from programming and development, but you weren't doing any of that, correct?
Yeah, by the time I started my company, I was only working on the relationships, the partnerships, and selling. So I was, basically in the beginning, full-time selling, full-time establishing those partnerships, like with Demandware and Magento, and Hybris, and then with the customers, and that's what I was doing full-time. And then as the agency grew, then culture became so much more important. So I was still selling and helping sell, but then I was really working on setting up the culture, and really having a winning culture that was focused on the customer.
Wow. And were you playing like the CEO hat as well here with sales and CEO and operations and running the actual company?
Yeah. I mean, I was founder and CEO, so I absolutely, surrounded myself with good people, if that makes sense. Like, at one point when we really started growing, I brought in Norm, Alisi. So I brought in Norm to be the COO and the CFO, which was early. And I knew I couldn't afford him, if that makes sense. Like, I brought in a very high level person because I knew for us to scale, I needed to be in the field more, establishing these relationships with partners and customers, and I needed someone running the organization. So he came in as COO. He ran delivery, made sure we were delivering on time and on budget. I mean, we ended up being somewhere around 92% on time and on budget, if you can imagine that, which is phenomenal. I mean, most of our competitors were 50. I mean, so we were amazing. And that just freed Dave and I up to go sell because Norm had the back of the house and we were in the market and we exploded. We built a sales team. We built an account management team. I mean, and we really built the infrastructure to be able to scale. I went to London. I mean, think about this. We opened a London office. I was in London for 2 weeks a month for a year, getting our London office going.
Wow. So it sounds like you went fairly early on. I mean, how many employees would you say you had? Like, what kind of revenue were you guys doing when you brought on an operator?
That's a really good question. I mean, it was early. I mean, I think it was around when we made that pivot to do e-commerce only because we decided to focus at one point, which made a huge difference because there was a time where we were doing everything. You know, you called me, I'm like, we can do that, and we'd figure it out. But there was a time where when the markets, kind of the financial markets crashed, no one was spending money on the expense side of the equation anymore. So they weren't doing ERP systems, but everyone was spending money on the revenue side of the equation. So everyone wanted revenue. So that's where we're going to focus on e-commerce and we're going to go all in. So we went all in e-commerce. Norm was doing some consulting with us and then we brought him in full time. So we had done a reset and then he helped with forecasts. He had I'm telling you, a crystal ball. And we brought him in earlier than we could afford him, given how senior he was. But it forced, think of this, it forced Dave and I to sell. It was kind of like at one point we moved to a bigger office and I remember sitting in that office at night one night and there's no one there. I'm just like, what the fuck did I just do? There's certain things where you put pressure on yourself. You're paying rent, you hire a COO, and then all of a sudden you're like, I have to sell. It provides a ton of motivation. So we really got out and got after it. And that kind of, we were able to do it. And I said, I don't know if you follow Jim Collins and know the concept of BHAG, like a big, hairy, audacious goal. So when I started the company in 2003, think about this, I'm at zero and it's just me starting this company. Before I hired Dave was my first hire. I said, I want to have a $50 million company by the time I'm 50.
Wow. And
so there I am. And I had this goal and I had no idea how I was going to do it. And I just missed, if you can believe that. I think we were 48 million when I turned 50 and we were about 55 million or something when I turned 51.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
But the power of goals, right? Because when I set that goal, I was at zero and I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to get there, but I'm setting an intention. I have support around me and I'm going to do everything I can to try to get there. Well, I had no idea about e-commerce. It was based IT consulting firm. It said nothing about e-commerce because e-commerce wasn't even there yet.
Mm. I'm curious though, as far as, with your agency, do you remember what stage you remember of the business you were in when you brought on the operator? Because it sounds like once you did that, you and Dave, I believe you said your partner, were able to full-fledged just focus on sales. You had operations handled, and it really sounds like this, it was a key pivotal role for you to have the operator because you guys were already so hungry to do the sales and were already, making that really happen. And given everything you've shared, I mean, it sounds like you really had a great handle on that with some fantastic relationships. And so, although yes, it was outside of your, budget to bring on the operator, it sounds like that was like the best bet you've ever made on yourself and on your business was, hey, if we can just find anybody who's really talented, and I don't know what your essential criteria was, but if we just get the operations handled and we get a rock star in here that can make it happen, we can sell and we can put all of our energy there and we can make it happen. And you did.
I knew Norm, I was in the entrepreneurs organization. I don't know if you know EO.
Of course.
So I had joined the entrepreneurs organization and I had met Norm. He was in my forum. And then he was running a company, and then that kind of fell apart. So then I started using him for consulting. So part of it was our relationship, my relationship with Norm, right? So I knew him. It's not like we just tried to go out and find someone.
Yeah.
And then our kind of our HR recruiting person at the time, she was the one that kind of called it into question at one of our SWOTs. Like we would do SWOTs, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And she kind of, put the screws to Dave and I and said, listen, you guys need someone to run the business. Like you guys are out in the field all the time, right? Selling, developing partnerships. We need someone here in the office really running it. So she was the one that kind of called it out. And so we kind of listened to her, and then Norm became available. He started helping us, and then we brought him on full time. And, at the time, it's funny, I had a coach, and the coach was like, you shouldn't do it. Like, absolutely recommended against it for me. Like, it's too early. You can't do it. But to your point, I kind of had to trust my gut and just believe in Dave and I, like, we're going to do this, and we're going to then sell more, and then we're going to develop a sales team so that we can be leveraged into the field, right? And then we'll help them, we'll train them, and that's kind of what we did. And knock on wood, right? I mean, it worked out, and Norm was amazing, and Dave and I then could kind of go crazy selling and in building a sales team. Then we built an account management team. By the time we sold our business, I mean, we brought in account managers to manage our existing accounts, and we were the first ones to do that in our industry. And they were non-billable, a non-billable resource. And by the time we sold the business, over 50% of our revenue was being sold by account managers into existing accounts.
It's amazing.
So imagine that, like we would go into a new year, 50% of our goal was already sold.
That's insane. Yeah, I mean, that is just a complete testament of how really getting your operations dialed, doing what you say you're going to do, just can absolutely snowball your business, because it's, they say there's the flywheel. And, I've heard the saying, I've heard a guy, Alex Becker, speak about this, where he basically gave the analogy where if your business, like most businesses, when nothing happens, they die. So if you don't promote them, they will eventually just go down as a negative cycle, because your product isn't so good that they want to share or continuously rebuy. And so when you can create a business that is so good, people want to continuously re-enroll, and they want to tell their friends, now you have a positive upcycle. When you pour marketing and advertising on that, you can really explode. But you need to have a business that actually has an upward tick. And it sounds like with an agency, that's not the easiest thing to do by any means. And so with the culture you were able to create, where, hey, we're going to do what we say we're going to do. We're going to, just produce great work, and we're going to over deliver, and we're going to give back guarantees, even though obviously you eventually that did allow you to put essentially your shoe in your mouth in some, or your foot in your mouth in some sense. When you eventually still look at the overarching premise is like, we're just going to do great work with great people and let that snowball us. And that is what it took to get the upward cycle. It's really impressive. It's really cool to hear your story, genuinely.
No, thank you. I mean, it was super fun. And, when you're in it, of course, it's stressful and everything, but we had such good customers, such good people, our employees. I mean, and we built this culture that, we became, I mean, think of this, everyone wants to be the best. Like in our industry, in the e-commerce industry, implementing demandware, we became the best in the world. Like at one point we were doing 40% of their implementations worldwide, 40%. And that's competing against Accenture and Deloitte and PwC and all the bigs. And we're just this little, $50 million, 500 person firm against these bigs and winning, because we're just doing it right. And at one time, like, think about this, at one time, because we started then this support. So, when we're just talking about account management, so we wouldn't just launch the site, then we would support, and we did 24/7, 365 support, but it wasn't just technical support. Like I had this vision, like, let's add creative, let's add digital marketing, digital strategy. So we're not just doing tickets, we're not just reactive, but we're also helping them grow their business. So at one time we had over 100 customers in our support organization. So think of that when I could go to you and say, I have 100 customers in my support organization. So think about this. When Apple Pay came out, we told our customers, Apple Pay just came out. We just implemented it over here. You need to do it because it's working, because we already tested it. So let's do Apple Pay for you. And think of that over and over and over. We have 100 customers that we can say, here's the best practices. We can really do best. Everyone says best practices, but with 100 customers, we can say, this works, this doesn't work, and we're bringing it to you. And we'd have these, your QBR, your quarterly business review, and we would bring big ideas. Bring into them and say, here's what we did last quarter, of course, and we did this, and we did the tickets and this and that. But how about this idea for you? How about this idea for you? Let's look at the big ideas so your business can grow. And I just had this concept, being an electrical engineer, can we help our customers maximize their potential online while my employees are maximizing their potential and using their unique gifts? So it was this synergy that I guess I never thought I would be able to attain, but we did.
Wow. That's super cool. So I guess going back to my question is, how are you helping? Like, your new business now is consulting and helping these founders, and how are you really mostly helping these guys? Obviously, by a lot of the stuff you shared, it's quite obvious how you can help them just with some philosophy of how to treat customers, of how to over deliver all the things. But I'm curious, where do you typically find your ideal clients now, and what stage do you usually see them in? What pains are they in, and how do you typically help them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks. I still am on advisory boards, right? So I do get asked to be on advisory boards. And so that's one way that I do help sit on the advisory board. And I always look at it if I can help people avoid making mistakes I made. But it's usually earlier stage, I would say, to your question, smaller entrepreneurial companies. And I think sometimes, I was sales, right? So I was very sales. Sometimes people they don't get the pipeline set up right. They're not holding their salespeople accountable. They're not tracking the metrics. They're not really looking at those relationships in terms of partnerships in the industry and really establishing those relationships. They're not seeing ways they can get more lead flow by having partnerships. So I can absolutely help with that. And then from a leadership perspective, this is all under kind of my Life of Sales brand, which is the name of the book as well. But I'm also running leadership cohorts. So we have 5 leadership cohorts, and we're just starting up because it's the new year. So we're just restarting up, where some people sign up for another year. We get some new people coming in, but basically people sign up for a year, and we meet for 2 hours every 3 weeks, and it's usually in the morning. So myself, and it's so funny, we were talking about Scott Steven, the guy at Playboy, he and I lead, these leadership groups, and we have some other leaders leading another leadership group too. But Scott and I lead 4 groups right now, and we're just trying to help these young entrepreneurs. And it's not just business, it's also social emotional intelligence. It's also, how do you create a culture so you can win? Right? So, think of it, we're creating this cohort because being an entrepreneur can be super lonely. And I know that firsthand, right? So you could be in a group with 8 people, plus Scott and I, and you can reach out to them every week. We're meeting every 3 weeks, but you can reach out, when you're lonely, when you have a question. But we're trying to help these younger entrepreneurs to really become transformational leaders, to really believe in what they can do, and sometimes get out of their own way. Right? Sometimes we have these limiting beliefs and we're in our own way. So to have someone believe in you and tell you, here's how I did it, you can do it. That's another way that I'm trying to help these leaders. And then I'm developing a sales training platform as well, where it's not fully launched yet, but we've launched a quarter of it, where we've shot 26 videos. I'm interviewing salespeople, I'm speaking, we're doing hard skills and soft skills. And it would basically be if you watch the video every 2 weeks, it'd be a year-long training class. So we've been in some companies beta testing this, and we've had great success training salespeople. And soon we're going to release it where anyone could go. You could download the manual and do it on your own, or you could do it with a sales group and join a sales cohort. And you could also get one-on-one sales coaching, because I have a bunch of sales coaches as well. So I'm trying to, I don't know, make a positive dent is the way I like to say it. Like, how can I give back and really help people?
I love it.
Okay, so life is sales. Like, tell us more about that in the book, and what does that expression mean to you?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, life of sales to me means we're always selling, right? Like, I mean, I have two grown daughters now, but I think back when my kids were small, like I was always selling them on their potential. I mean, I had two girls. I was always selling them on what they could do, and especially, you know, my oldest daughter is about to turn 30. Like 30 years ago, it was very male dominated, and I was selling her on, you can do, as a woman, you could do whatever you want to do and believe in yourself. You know, that's a sale. You know, so I'm trying to take the negative connotation off of sales, like the sleazy sales guy that's trying to sell you something that you're never going to use. We're always selling. I mean, and what's wrong with me trying to sell someone on their potential? What's wrong with me trying to tell someone you can do it and sell them to believe in themselves? So the book, Life of Sales, is basically my autobiography about me growing from, you know, an engineer up through running my own business. And it's my story interlaced with, you know, social emotional intelligence and how I changed and how I grew. And my sales, my coach, my mentor and coach, kind of comments throughout the book, you know, basically how he saw me and how he was coaching me and what our relationship looked like as I was kind of changing who I was, you know, as a person, as a man, as a leader, as a husband, as a father, all of those things. You know, when you're an entrepreneur, it's not very separate. So that's kind of the story. And then I'm working on another book right now, which will be called Business is Culture, which is really going to attack, you know, what we've been talking about here, the cultural aspect. But it's a little bit different than most books on culture, where, you know, put your principles and values on a piece of paper and put them on your website. It's really going to hit culture from the inside out. Like, if you want to create a culture and create a business, everything we've been talking about, Ryan, you have to walk that talk first, right? So for me to build that culture in the business, I had to turn myself inside out. I had to live it before I could create that culture in the business. So that's going to be the focus of the second book.
I love it.
Awesome.
When's that going to be released?
That's a really good question. I mean, we've got the content down, but now the hard part starts, which is all the editing and deduping and stuff. So I don't have a launch date, but I'll let you know. Yeah, thanks.
Cool.
And for Life is Sales, the book, how did the idea of writing a book came to you, and how did you decide, yes, this is the year I'm going to write a book?
It's so funny you asked that, because I probably owned that URL, lifeofsales.com, for probably 30 years. So like a long time ago, I had this inspiration that I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to write a book called Life of Sales. And it's not going to be just about sales. It's going to be about life and relationships, and that we're always, you know, trying to help each other. And really, you know, sales is service. That's what it is. And can I be, you know, the biggest blessing that I could be in the world? Can I be that? So I registered a long time ago, and then it took me a long time to get back to it, meaning I ran my business for 14 years. I sold it. Then I stayed at Capgemini for 4 years, you know, in this 350,000 person company trying to make a difference, which is super challenging. And then I got out of that in 2001, sorry. So just about 4 years ago. And so then I finally got back to writing the book.
That is very impressive. So you had the idea technically 30 years ago, and you wrote the book. You said you started writing it 4 years ago?
Yeah, just 4 years ago. Yeah, because I sold the business in 2017, and then I was at Capgemini for 4 years until 2021. And so then I really took it on, really writing the book.
Awesome. And the official release of the book was last year, November.
Just in October. Yeah, just in October. Yeah.
That is awesome. How does it feel like having, this is your first book, right?
Yeah, first book.
How does
Yeah.
it feel having a book out in the wild and people just reading it and just...
I'll tell you, it's more vulnerable than I expected. You know, because you tell stories about yourself and then people read it and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that about you." Like, you know, because you know it's all out there, and people are like,
Yeah.
"Wow, you've had quite a journey. Like, that's so cool. Like, I didn't know that about you." So, I mean, I guess vulnerable in a good way, but it's kind of scary too. You know what I mean? You're out there, and it's not just a business book. It's talking about me and kind of my growth path in terms of personal growth. And you know, I was very stoic, and you know, thought conflict was bad. My parents divorced. So, I mean, I talk about everything in there in terms of how then I got married, and my wife dragged me into therapy, and I didn't want to go. And I mean, a lot of kind of more vulnerable things that open me up to like feelings aren't bad, especially as a man. We're always afraid. If someone tells you they're not afraid, they're lying. You know, fear is a 1 to 10. It's not a yes or no. Like we always have fear and anxiety. Like we have this tornado, I tell people, and I tell this to my entrepreneurs, right? You have this tornado going on inside of you: fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy. But you still get to focus. You still get to decide how you want to be. You're not your feelings. Like you have it going on, and if you can be aware, it's like a superpower, but you still get to decide how you want to be.
That is, yeah, that's an impressive perspective. How does it compare? I mean, you could record a video and publish it, but it's way different than publishing a book, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of video, and on richlyons.com, there's a lot of free videos and a lot of things that content I put out. But the book is kind of has everything,
Feels
right?
more personal.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So,
That's
Rich,
awesome.
do you have any selfish plug you'd like to share with the audience of how to get in contact with you? Anything that they should check out as far as what you have released, where people can learn more about you?
I mean, lifeofsales.com, you know, lists a lot, and it has the book, and you can get the book on Amazon, and it's also on Audible. So there is an audio book. I don't read it actually because we have two different voices. So I decided not to read it myself. And then richlyons.com actually has a lot of free videos and things that you could check out. If you're interested in a leadership group, you know, if you're an entrepreneur and want support, let me know. Like we're starting up some new leadership groups coming up right in like the middle of February, actually. And then I just finished doing a week-long leadership training down here in Mexico. I'm in Mexico. So we just had 12 people down here in Mexico. We did a leadership week, which was amazing. Like we did some super cool stuff. We did a sweat lodge, and we did some ideal state action plans. It was amazing. So, I mean, if any of it sounds interesting, you know, please reach out to me.
Amazing. Amazing. Awesome, Rich. Thank you so much for hopping on. This was super fun.
It was a very fun conversation.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thanks for having me. It was super fun. Super fun conversation.
It's super cool to hear your story. You've got just you've just got a wild experience of growing like a really impressive agency, having an awesome exit, and having what sounds like a fantastic career. So it's really impressive. Thanks for sharing.
Honored to have you.
Thanks so much. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, Rich.